So the burst in LD era is upon us. We are here, guys. We have made it. First off, before we begin, I would like to apologize for my mini hiatus that I took. I just had to take a break, not specifically from YouTube, but just from a few things, just to really take a step back. A lot's been going on up in this old noggin of mine, and just needed to take a step back, take a break from a few things, and try some new things just to do right by me. So, unfortunately, I will not be going back to cover Train Quistis. I really don't want to backtrack. The event is pretty much said and done. We've had some time to just really sink and get past it. But we're here with the Burst and LD era. Squall being the first to receive both of these brand new weapons. So, this is actually going to start the mark of our brand new series on the channel, the importance of so-and-so's Burst for the Chaos era. Any character that receives an LD are pretty much usable in the Chaos era. Pretty much all LDs going forward, and I can't stress this enough, are absolutely needed for the character and really make the character viable and usable at any time. Whether the importance really comes through or not, we'll talk about that when the time comes. But the LD is really what makes the character. So the reason why we have this series is to talk about if the burst itself is worth it to run or to really grab. I mean, obviously, if you get the burst, you're going to want to run it. But is it worth it to dig for? Is it worth it to try for that 150k pity? That's what we're here to talk about. And we'll also just be minorly covering any of the characters that receives any reworks, EX pluses along the debut, such as Orin, which we'll actually hop in and talk about now. As always, before we jump in, big shout out to the Tom Berry Troop for the lovely infographics that will be displayed in this video. If you are not following them on any other social media platforms, such as their Facebook and or Reddit, or giving their website a check-see, make sure you go do so, as they're a lovely group of people and very helpful to the community. They have actually also updated the way that their infographics look, and I like it a lot. It's very concise. I feel like it's a lot easier to read, a lot easier to look at. It's very nice. I like the way they were before, but I like them a lot better now. I feel like this is a massive improvement, and they always continue to outdo themselves. Orin is our melee imperil specialist. Pretty much his entire kit, besides his first skill, which inflicts some debuffs, rolls around inflicting that melee imperil. With the addition of his EX plus and a rework that gives him access to some harder hits and a decent bit of overflow. His EX plus allows for just better performance overall, pretty much, and just do what he could already do better. And with all of that, Orin himself, even with the rework and EX plus, isn't really all that important. Mostly just because while the melee imperil is nice, it's better to have elemental imperilers, as it's a little more versatile. When it comes to melee imperilers, you're really only focused on melee specific characters, whereas elemental imperilers usually come with an elemental enchant, so it covers the entire cast rather than just a specific portion of the cast that uses melee attacks. So unfortunately, just solely because of that and the little amount of damage that he does decent damage. It's not the greatest in the world. I'm not trying to undermine it. It's just it's not crazy. You're really only putting him on the team to melee and peril, and that's practically it to open up your melee damage dealers to do more damage. But overall, Orin is a solid character. I just wouldn't say he's important for Chaos era. Going forward, I'm going to stop with if you do choose to build them up, 3 out of 3 of them. Always 3 out of 3 your characters now. We are at the point in the Chaos era where every character should be 3 out of 3, unless they are a specific character that can run a specific budget build. If it's a character like Orin, if it's a character like Steiner, if it's a character like any other character on the banner, you want to 3 out of 3 them. Definitely. So I'm going to stop with that. And just assume going forward that when the time comes that we're talking about these characters, you're going to want to 3 out of 3 them, unless other people, or such as myself, mention that they can be run as a budget character. There are very few characters that can do that, but we will let you know if they can be run on a budget build. But Orin, though, great character, just not. I don't think he's important for the Chaos era all that personally, but still a good character. Now, Squall. I've always had a history with this character because the game always seems to pass me as shit. I'm going to be honest, I was actually going for Orin's EX rather than anything else on here. Mostly just for the fact that I do actually like Orin as a character. I think he's really cool. And I don't know, I thought he'd be fun to use, regardless of my thoughts and beliefs on him. So I did like 2 multis. I did probably around 60 tickets, and it passed me 2 of his LD. So here we are. You know, you can't just pull the LD and just not build the man. Come on. So, we're going to be talking real quick about the LD. The LD, what does it do? It is an 8-hit AoE HP attack with 80% splash damage going to the other party. So, continuing to specify on what Squall does well, doing massive AoE damage. It gives him access to a new stackable framed icon that lasts for 16 turns every time you use the LD, which increases his attack and overflow per stack. Now his burst, if you are unfamiliar with burst, what a burst does is it allows the character to take a 6-turn action to themselves. Much like a summon, it's like their own personal summon. They get 1 free ability of each of their abilities, their C65, LD, first and second, as well as their EX. That does not affect their ability account outside of the burst, and does not affect their EX recast gauge outside of the burst. Everything is only affected when inside the burst. At the end of it, the character will shoot off this big spectacular attack that does a lot of damage and breaks the 999 cap, such as Squalls can go up to 198k, does a big old blast effect, and then has a burst effect to continuously affect the party afterwards. What Squall's burst does is it is a 15-hit AoE shared damage HP attack that breaks the cap and caps at 198k and does a lot of damage. The burst effect outside of the burst does increased brave and HP damage, very similar to what Charlotta does with her HP damage increase. So, for 3, this lasts for 3 of Squall's turns, so you'll be able to actually take advantage of more HP damage throughout the entire party, which is actually pretty nice. Overall, though, with all of that said, is Squall's burst worth it? Is it worth it to dig for? Is it worth it to go for? Honestly, no. Being the first of its kind, it honestly comes in as this brand new shiny weapon to us. It looks great. The system does this great new thing. But the thing is with the way Squall is currently, he's not really able to capitalize fully on the fact that he could take 6 turns to himself. Squall was a great damage dealer, and we still can't deny that. But there are other characters that we're going to be seeing relatively soon that can take more advantage of the 6 turns that they get. Renzo Kukin is a nice ability, but if he's starting off at low brave, he's not going to cap at all. He's not going to get there at all. And you only get 1 use of these things, so while it is great and you can score in a lot of damage, overall, it's more of a spice of life thing for Squall rather than something that's absolutely necessary. He will get a rework and an LD extension in the future that pretty much fixes this issue, because you just fire off the LD at any given, at literally every single move. It becomes the best AoE damage dealer in the game. But overall, the burst is definitely not needed now. Unless Squall is an absolute favorite of yours, I wouldn't recommend personally digging too heavily for this burst specifically. Unless you're a massive collector, a big fan of Squall, whatever the case may be. If it's something that you want to pick up with burst tokens later on, if you eventually get enough, that's perfectly fine, but I don't see it worth to dig in for, especially if you might have to pity the thing, as it is the lowest rarity, lowest rated weapon in the pool system, with a very low chance of actually pulling it. So if you do actually get it, great on you, that's super lucky, but it's definitely not something I would recommend pulling for or investing for heavily unless you're a big fan of the character, or you're a big collector purpose, or just a whale. You know, if you're a whale, whatever, go ahead. But overall, with the addition of these new weapons, does this make Squall important for the Chaos era? Now, I wouldn't say so much. While yes, he does a lot of damage and he outclasses current damage dealers, especially with the addition of that LD, he's still a dime a dozen DPS, so you'll still have characters that can fulfill his role. It's not something that you definitely need. So overall, the burst isn't important, and I don't think Squall is all that important, but he will get a much brighter future for him relatively soon. Like, not all that far from now, to be quite honest. It's probably about a few months away. So while he's not important now, oh man, he will become the most prominent AoE damage dealer in the game when his rework and LD section comes out. So look forward to that if you do choose to build up Squall. Great character, phenomenal, does a ton of damage right now. Thanks to the LD, his HP attack plus got some upgrades and stuff. So overall, Squall is a very powerful character. It's just, personally, just because he's more of a diamond dozen DPS, I don't think he's important right now, but still, you gotta love it, you know? He's the first of its kind, and he'll get touched upon much later. And that'll pretty much wrap it up for this one, guys. A rough recap, both these characters may not be important now. Squall will definitely have a much brighter future, and Orin just doesn't compare to Elemental Emperors, but overall, they're both phenomenal characters. Now, real quick, if you were to choose a specific banner to pull on for, this is the banner that you would want to pull on if you were missing the rest of Squall's gear. If you have the rest of Squall's gear and you just need the burst in LD, I still will not touch this banner. Kate Sith and Gilgamesh are heavily outclassed. Tifa is still solid, but she's outclassed as well. This banner, just stay with this banner, because Orin at least has his perks and gimmicks, and Steiner is great if you go all out on him like I did in Max's character boards. Don't you judge me. But definitely, I would recommend just sticking with this banner personally, unless you're missing the other characters on the other side. But if you're a veteran player, I wouldn't really go for that banner. Even if you're a newer player, I still wouldn't go for that banner. I would just stick with this one, to be perfectly honest. But that'll pretty much wrap it up for me on this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I apologize for the mini hiatus. We are back, and we are better than ever. We are ready to go. I hope you enjoyed some of the new format that I'm squeezing into the video. I'm going to be having a lot of fun trying to mess around with it, some new stuff, and setting up these videos in new different ways. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.